It's a beautiful story of how Jesus, after his ascension into heaven, was surrounded by the holy angels who began to inquire about his work on earth. Jesus told them about his life, his death, resurrection, and how he accomplished the salvation of the world. The archangel Gabriel asked the Lord, "Well, now that you are back in heaven, who will continue your work on earth?" Jesus said, "While I was on earth, I gathered a group of people who believed in me and loved me. They will continue to spread the good news, or the gospel." Angel Gabriel was puzzled and said, "You mean Peter, who denied you 3 times, and all the rest who ran away after when you were crucified? And what will you do if this plan doesn't work? Don't you have a plan B?" And Jesus said, "I have no plan B. I am counting on them, and it must work." Yes, dear friends, Jesus was right. Truly, Jesus has no other plans than to depend on the efforts of his followers. Today, Gospel tells us that with his return to the Father, Jesus completes the mission on earth. But before he ascended, Jesus entrusted to the disciples the mission of preaching the gospel or the good news and evangelizing the whole world by bearing witnesses to him through their lives. As we know, the apostles did exactly that by establishing the early Christian communities. As Christians, we are now called to do the same, to be the witnesses of the risen Lord in this world. Now, one might ask the question, if Jesus is no longer visible, how will people come to know of his presence? The answer is that he wants to make himself known through his disciples who are going to be the witnesses of the Lord in this world. On this feast of Ascension, we are reminded that it is not the task of Christians to stand and look into the sky, either to mourn his departure or to await his return. Therefore, we should not be preoccupied looking for the signs of Christ's return. Rather, our role is to become witnesses of the risen Lord until his second coming. And always remember, Jesus is counting on each one of us. In 1960s, Pope Paul VI has famously said that the world needs witnesses more than it needs teachers. This is because it is relatively easy to be a teacher. It is much harder to be a witness. In fact, the world is full of both good and true or false teachers, but it has very few witnesses. Between these two roles, there is the same difference, that of saying and doing things, because actions speak louder than words. That is a saying we have. The witness is one who speaks about his or her life. A believing father or mother must be the first witnesses of faith for their children. Let's take a specific example. At this time of the year, during the Easter season, many children are receiving their first communion or the confirmation, just as we had them very recently. A believing mother or father can help the child to review the catechism, explain the scriptures, and help their son or daughter to learn the prayers and bring them to Mass on every weekend. Such parents are doing a beautiful job of witnessing the risen Lord in this world, and we need more of them today. The Ascension was not a farewell party or ceremony for Jesus, but it was a commissioning and a new way of life for Jesus' disciples. We too can be part of that mission. The Feast of Ascension reminds us that when the historical presence or the physical presence of Jesus ended, we are now living in the time of the Spirit, the time of incredible growth of the church. The Lord has transcended our space and time, but without leaving this world. Bishop Robert Barron uses the example of a square and a sphere or even a cube. He says, when you create a cube out of a square, we are not destroying the square itself. The cube has an extra dimension. And so the cube can contain almost infinite number of squares within that. Similarly, Jesus has only disappeared from our field of vision. That's why in today's gospel, the Lord assures each one of us, saying, "Behold, I am with you always, even to the end of times." So, Jesus has not abandoned us ascending to his Father in heaven, but he remains with us always and forever.